More on those fresh doubts that we'll ever see a debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump holding off on reconfirming that September debate until Harris is the official Democratic nominee. Joining us now, Mark McKinnon, former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain, and former Democratic Congressman Max Rose. So, Mark, Trump had agreed to a September debate with President Biden hosted by ABC News, but then Biden dropped out of the race and Trump seems to have changed his tune. First, he said he wasn't, quote, thrilled with ABC. Now he wants to wait until Harris is officially the nominee. What's your read on this? Does it sound like Trump's trying to get out of that debate?
No question, man. What happened to anywhere, anytime, any place? This is really interesting because the most important asset for a presidential candidate is the perception of strength. And that's why Biden was in so much trouble, mostly because of his age. He was just perceived as weak and Trump was perceived as strong, even though he was old as well. But by trying to fade this debate, Trump is signaling his own weakness, that he's worried about debating Harris, and he should be. You know, one thing people remember about the 2020 campaign, which wasn't great for Harris, was her shining moment on the debate stage where she almost took out Joe Biden with a roundhouse. She is a great debater, and I think that it's really interesting that Trump is already showing signs of real concern about the debates.
Congressman, are we entering an era now where debates are simply optional? And isn't that just a disservice to the American people?
It's a total disservice, but I really don't think we're entering that era, thank God, because just imagine if Donald Trump actually rejects a debate.
I mean, he did in the primaries.
Well, that's normal politics, right? If you're leading significantly in a primary, you don't debate. Heck, I've done that before. So but in a presidential election where you're trailing each other neck and neck in the polls, you debate, because what happens if Donald Trump decides not to debate? For the next 60 days, here's this man that says, I'm the strong leader that you all need to tackle the problems that we're facing, but he's too chicken to debate because he knows that he can't stand next to Kamala Harris, who has an impeccable ability to prosecute the case against Donald Trump as a failed leader and a threat to democracy. He won't be able to stand up to those politics for 60 days, being rightfully called a chicken. I just don't see it. It would be so foolhardy.
That's interesting. I do want to get your thoughts, Congressman, on J.D. Vance and some of these new old comments we're talking about today. Right. We played the one at the top of the show where he seemed to disparage people, women who don't have children. Well, there's another comment that ABC News is reporting on about another 2021 remark Vance made where he argued for higher tax rates on childless Americans. He says, quote, so you talk about tax policy, let's tax the things that are bad and not tax the things that are good. If you're making $100,000, $400,000 a year, you've got 3 kids, you should pay a different, lower tax rate than if you're making the same amount of money and you don't have any kids. It's that simple. Of course, the child tax credit already exists, but just the way he talks about it, bad if you don't have kids, good if you do have kids. Do you think Trump's regretting his VP pick?
Absolutely. And this is why Trump took so long to make the decision in the first place. I think that he had a sneaking suspicion that J.D. Vance is awfully weird and has this instinct to consistently stand out. And I think that you see this often.
But he still picked him. I mean, he had many other candidates. So if he had an instinct that he was weird, why would he have picked him?
I think his son got to him.
You think it's about his family?
I think his family got to him. I think Tucker Carlson got to him. I think that people were saying that you need some level of intellectual consistency. Let's bolster the MAGA movement. But what's so shocking about that is they actually picked someone he's smart, no doubt he's smart, but he has no intellectual foundation. 5 years ago, when it was cool for him and young Republicans to say they're anti-Trump, he was saying Trump's the next Hitler. And now he sees a new lane for himself. But he consistently has this weird instinct to say things that are just outrageous and strange, like people without children should be taxed more. It's odd, and it's not going away, and that's why he has not gotten any bump in the polls after being nominated to the vice presidency. No one's ever seen something like this before.
Mark, I got to get your thoughts on this.
Well, in a single statement, J.D. Vance just wiped out a complete demographic that could have voted for the Trump and the Republican ticket. And in races, inarguably going to be very close, you need every vote possible. And I don't know exactly what the numbers are of childless Americans in this country, but it's got to be a lot. And the other thing about Vance, just another example of the failed vetting process. Trump is trying to run as fast as he can from this 2025 project about, what Republicans really want to do if Trump's elected. And Trump was trying to deny that he had anything to do with that. Now it turns out J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to the paper. So now they own it and they can't get away from it. So you just can imagine that Trump is going crazy over this.